What is up, everybody? Welcome to Skill or Scam, brought to you by Factions Competitive Team, bringing you unlimited power, double legend in Wild and in Standard.
What's up, guys?
Bringing you Flying Kraken, the Druid Extraordinaire, top 200 currently, and a former Magic the Gathering pro.
Oh, what's up, guys?
And Harash, a top 10 finisher and Masters qualifier for Montreal.
Hello.
All right, guys. Skill or scam. A little bit about what skill or scam is. We're going to talk about controversial or potentially juicy conversation topics regarding the current state of Hearthstone and all of the happenings that go behind it. It seems, guys, like we've actually had a pretty substantial happening here recently with a new set announced, nerfs having come out, along with an entirely new game mode. So let's just jump right into it. Today's starting question for Skill or Scam is: was Mage a skill or a scam deck in its entirety?
So we're talking about small. I almost said small skill mage, small spell mage, right? Where you had, as you see here, you got this. The main core of the deck was the Sorcerer's Apprentice, making all these little one cost spells cost 0. You had, at the time, Evocation cost 1. It has now been nerfed to 2, which was a big pain point for a lot of people. This card costing 1, and then you play Sorcerer's Apprentice, it costs 0, and then you have a million other things to play afterwards. As well as we had Astromancer Solarian, the card that comes out of it, Solarian Prime, was a 7 mana 7/7. And it is now a 9 mana 7/7 with the same effect. So both cards were nerfed pretty heavily. Another issue with the Evocation, which is now a 2 mana, is that it could be generated through Cobalt Spellkins and your Wand Makers here, right? So that's where the issues were arising. People making a million copies of Evocation. You could even discover it off of Magic Trick. There's a lot of ways to get it. Right, you could get it off of Wand Thief. So I don't know if you guys experienced it. I'm sure you did. I had games where I played against 3, 4, 5 evocations in one game. It wasn't a fun experience.
Yeah, I know. I've had a game recently after the nerf where they played 4 evocations. So I mean, it's still possible to play plenty just from the Wand Thieves and the there's other random magic tricks and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So it created a lot of debate, right? A lot of people thought this was a very, very high skill cap deck, right? A lot of people thought, there's a lot of decision making, right? You have to decide. I don't know. You have to decide what you're choosing off of all your discover effects. You have to decide which minions are going to freeze or kill off, so on. Sure, but I don't know if that fits my definition of a skillful deck. How about you guys?
So, Flying Kraken, you've actually been pretty quiet here. I'm actually very interested to know. Obviously, Evocation, it's a huge thing. You can't help the fact that you could potentially face 4 or 5 of them within a game. You can't help turn 4 double mana giants, whatever the case. Do you feel primarily like the nerf was just, or did you feel like this was just a scam deck? Did you feel like there was a skill component to it? Like, was it primarily skill or scam to you?
Yeah, I felt like it was a little bit of both, because I feel like that the deck wasn't necessarily easy to play, but the skill, like the ceiling of the deck, like the power level of the actual deck, was almost indefinite based on what you created. So the card going to 2 mana made the ability to get 4 or 5 of them like far less likely. So the high ceiling that the deck had before, while it can still have it, it's not necessarily as easy to get it anymore. And but like, I've played it after the nerf, and it seems like the power level has just been drastically reduced, but still a playable deck. So I think they did a good job with it so far.
So you agree with the nerf?
I believe it was a problem. I think it being 1 mana was a serious problem.
I also thought it wasn't even just Evocation. 7 mana Solarian Prime was the scammiest thing to play against, and I'm sure 9 mana Solarian Prime is going to be too. I actually haven't played against one yet, but First of all, I've been saying this for a long time. 7 mana 7/7 Solarian Prime existing when there's a 7 mana 5/4 Vosh Prime is a crime against humanity.
It was a seven. It was a 7 cost box with, with half the value of box. I mean, it was unbelievable.
I can't confirm this, but I believe the wording on the card is the first time they've ever specifically said that random but targeting the opponent first, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that was probably Blizzard's way to like fix RNG, because people have been complaining about RNG in Hearthstone forever. So they probably thought, how do we like limit RNG but still have some of it? And they thought, well, let's just do this. Let's do like, it's going to target Allura, like you said, or it's going to target enemies first. Like, but in the end, it almost makes it like more scammy, because then there's more powerful things that can happen and it can be more ridiculous. So
are you on? Are you actually on Team Skill or Team Scam where Mage is concerned?
I think I originally was all in on Skill. I think it was a very difficult deck, but after having played against it more and thought about it more, I actually think it's probably more just a Scam deck. I think the things that the deck allows you to do is almost borderline breaking the game. Like you're playing 30 mana worth of cards, you're playing things that had never started in your deck. You're doing infinite cycles of Magic Trick into Tome of Intellect into Magic Trick into, like, you're starting to do things that the game has never had purpose to do or should ever have planned to do.
You take the deck and you just like look at the cards and you don't really consider the RNG part of the deck. The deck rates power level probably about, on a scale of 1 to 10, probably about a 6, just pure card wise. But when you add in all the RNG and the evocations and the random color evocations, they're like, you're seeing on average 40, 50 cards. So it goes from a 6 to a 10, 12, past the meter basically.
To that point, I actually, ULP, will you pull up that D-Money,
Yes, I will.
D-Money clip? Because I feel like when we're talking about like a power level, when you say a 6, to me, and again, this is just me, I'm slumming it in Diamond 5, obviously. Like D-Money in this game is rank 7 playing rank 70 playing rank 2. So if we're talking skill or scam, like these two guys, obviously very, very good. But D-Money, look at his turn. Like how the heck was that fair? Like in what way? To me, I feel like that is unbelievable that you can have that board on turn 4. And like he obviously he didn't get a chance to attack, but how does that rogue have a chance here? Where is their skill in that? Like maybe he had to come up with a combination of cards to get all those things out, but like this to me does not, like, I don't care what level of the game you're at. That to me, if a deck can do that and do that consistently, I mean, I've seen a ton of tweets of people saying like, come on, like where's the hope in this game?
Just play warrior.
Like if you like, the reason why I was saying that without all the RNG of the deck is like a 6 or a 7 maybe, is because like this happened right here probably with with some RNG, with some randomly generated cards and all that kind of stuff. But if this is what the deck is doing, but it's limited, right? It's only happening once every 5 games or once every 6 games. It reminds me of an old
50% is like about like better than 50% is a positive. So like if you're telling me like 20% of games can do that, I'm out.
It reminds me of the old like Druid Arcane Giant decks that were back in the day, where the Druid would cast like 20 spells, Arcane Giants for 20 or like 8/8s, and they would copy the Arcane Giants on like turn 5, basically. I don't know if like any of y'all remember that deck. But
I think didn't it run like Auctioneer too? I think maybe.
It was basically the version of this deck, but just like 2 or 3 turns slower.
Right.
And I think, all right, so look at this. This is turn 4 going into the opponent's turn 5. This turn going into, it's kind of crazy. Going into turn 7 or 8, maybe it's not that crazy. I guess for a rogue, it's going to be hard no matter what to deal with a wide board like this. But it's a little less crazy at that point. This on a turn 4, one of the funniest parts about this screenshot to me is he still could have played Solarian and Geomancer.
Yeah.
He could have played
not
more
both
stuff.
of them, because
one of the
from
two.
Primordial Study.
Yeah,
when he plays one, the next one goes back to its original cost.
Yes.
But yes, he could have played 2 more mana, yeah.
He ran out of board space. That was his limit.
Saying earlier too, is like, think about now, not only is there an 8/8 and a bunch of 5/5s and there's 7 minions and everything, but think about how much mana was probably cheated in this turn. I mean, you could actually count it, right? So there's 8 mana on a mana giant. Every single 5/5 is 3 mana. So I mean, just do the math right there. Was that 3 times 4? It's
Yeah.
12 plus. That's 20. At least 20 mana was cheated that turn. At least. I mean, that's a minimum. 20 mana was cheated. So on turn 4, D-Money played at 25 minimum mana crystals.
This is like some
That is where the problem is arising for me.
It's
It's
like
not
some-
even the fact that it's the fact that 25 mana was played with 5 mana. But the core problem is Hearthstone's mechanics of cheating mana is across multiple cards and classes. And that is the core aspect that needs to be fixed before, or else it's just going to keep happening in different decks and different classes.
So like since I've been a part of the the Hearthstone community, the first thing I got in, like when I first started, Demon Hunter had just become a thing, and like we watched 5 nerfs on Demon Hunter, right? Then we watched nerfs against Druid, and now I feel like Mage is kind of in this this sort of spot where it keeps getting nerfed and it keeps staying good. Because I would argue that, like, even though the nerf has effectively worked, like we can all agree that like it has slowed down, it is still a viable deck in my opinion. Like, it's maybe not as like powerhousey as it was, but it still has pop off ability. And I think that like for a deck to continue to be able to be as good as it is right now after a nerf that clearly worked, I still think that like for them to nerf it and it still has the ability to tier 1 once somebody finds it, and that people can still play it. I think that kind of says itself, like, hey, they took it down, it's still good. So that it was a scam deck. I'm still voted scam here.
I mean, like people, there were a lot of people in the community that wanted to change the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Like they wanted she couldn't reduce cards below 1 basically. And even a while back, a couple of seasons or expansions ago, there was what was the 2/3 elemental for priest that reduced cost of things.
Yeah, I don't remember the name. Radiant Elemental.
Radiant Elemental, yeah.
Yeah, but people would do so. Like, think about this: people today are doing Shambhala and Sorcerer's Apprentice. People back then were playing Lyra,
yeah,
and the card and doing the exact same thing, and sometimes killing people by randomly generating doubling health and then making their interfiring people. Like people, they were doing the same thing basically.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think it's just a consistency thing. I just think that the Mage deck does it so much more often. I mean, it's literally the point of the deck. Back then with the Priest with Lyra and Radiant Elemental, that was kind of like something you could do, like if you had it line up, but it wasn't the core purpose of the deck.
Oh,
like
yeah,
the whole
the
point
win
of Mage is to
condition.
do this.
Yeah, but
it's not the win condition.
I'm saying that, like, theoretically, when they saw the whole Lyra Elemental thing, they would think like, well, this is a core elemental. This is like a core problem to the game, so we need to fix this. But the deck has, like, in another class, gotten better.
Yeah.
So
no, yeah, I agree.
So
it seems like all of us have ended up agreeing Mage was
you cut
absolutely
out there
deck.
a little bit.
Yeah, I've been changed. I really thought it was skill, but the more I thought about it, it does things.
It seems,
So this is
there
is
an
my
argument for Mage?
This is my thought about it. It's like there is a skill to maximizing the amount of scam you can pump out. That's what this deck is.
The skill of the deck is like the skill of any other deck. It's like you have to play well and play efficiently to maximize the deck. But that doesn't like take away the randomness.
You're playing solitaire. Like your opponent has almost nothing they can do, especially with a situation like the one we have right here. Almost nobody has any chance against something like this, right? Maybe if a warrior happened to have brawl, as we said before, if a priest happened to have Shadowward Ruin, which most people don't main deck that ever, and it doesn't even deal with all the problems out there right now, right? On that board,
Zephyr doesn't even deal with it.
Yeah, Zephyrus doesn't even deal with this, and he's got the perfect cards, right? Like,
unless he had 6 mana, but again, there's still issues. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like it's so hard to deal with that. So it's like it's a one-sided skill deck where it's like you are basically the skill behind it is taking away your opponent's ability to use their skill.
And the funny thing is that people still brought this deck to the Masters Tour this weekend.
I brought it to Aspirant this week.
Yeah, because it was kind of like weird when they nerfed it. The whole meta slowed down drastically.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no aggro. Aggro does not exist in the meta a lot, consistently right now. And so the deck being 1 or 2 turns slower than it was before kind of was mitigated by decks being slower. You
Yeah.
know,
That's honestly kind of why I think now that a smarter brain than mine could the dragon the Highland because you can't get targeted. So like a lot of the cards in there, are kind of immune to some of the BS you're gonna see with like, Demon Hunter, Priest, whatever. I feel like the meta is slow enough now to where it could work, and there's enough removal built into the deck along with enough donk, with heavy hitters. Like even if you went back to the point where you're using DQA, I feel like there's actually an argument for it because the meta slowed down. I mean, you would 100% not do that well against a mage. I mean, it was kind of a 50-50 if you were lucky, but I feel like it has opened up potential for new decks. And I've already started seeing a couple of new decks as a result of the nerf. Like, I think we're seeing kind of an insurgence in Rogue now.
We're seeing some
Uh,
control shaman. Control shaman's looking real now,
yeah.
which is
Yeah.
making my
And then
day.
and to be honest, when I was succeeding at High Legend with Druid still, and people were saying Druid was bad, it was only because the meta has slowed down. So Guardian Animals going to 8 was not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It's because the whole meta slowed down.
And
so
there's
okay,
also no
we
aggro punch anything. Yeah.
we yeah, I think with the new update, also having a new towards we're getting an entirely new set, a new game mode. I think it's appropriate to say, okay, we've all decided that among the four of us, I don't know if any of us are being biased or whatever, because I don't know that any of us played Mage, but I do think that there's at least a majority in our group that says Mage was scam. I also feel like I would love to know the argument for Mage. So if anybody would say, no, I disagree with all of you guys for this reason, this reason, this reason. Show us screenshots, do us something, but try to tell any of us how what you're seeing down there is fair in any way. I will listen to any argument. You guys
I
agree?
mean, I think the argument, like the argument, is very hard to make because, like, anytime you show a screenshot of like this deck doing things that require skill and thought process and all that stuff, it usually ends up with like 5 or 6 cards in hand created from other things. And that's kind of where like the whole scam part comes in, right? You can always make the argument that it's going to take skill to utilize all those cards correctly, but you can't deny the RNG that it creates, right?
Yeah.
A person that was given that deck could stumble into it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd also say, like, I think the argument for skill is like, okay, look at this screenshot. That happens every, however many games. If there is an actual percent, whatever. But like, that just isn't true. Like the deck does it. That's the core function of the deck is to cheat that much mana and to do those things. It's not like this happens on a side as a side, purpose of the deck. Like, no, it's meant to do this.
Yep.
It's on purpose.
Do you think that people that were arguing this deck was an actual skilled deck were just trying to outvoice the people that didn't know how to play this deck? Because I feel like the people that were arguing, saying like, no, it's not that good, were people that were bad with the deck and didn't know how to make its win condition happen.
No, I would agree that I think people are probably just saying there's so many people. I think like most people, the largest majority of people who are like main classers in Hearthstone are mage players. That's not a fact, but just what seems to me. The most people who are like, I play this deck, this class, it's usually mage or more than mage than other classes. And so there's a lot of people who are like, they'll always be on the side of mage.
Makes sense.
And
It's
that's
the
just
first
what they
deck.
are.
It's the first class you ever play when you start playing Hearthstone.
Yeah.
And also, like, Mage has such a deep history and the competitive side of Hearthstone dating back all the way to like 2015 and stuff.
Yeah.
So I now that we've kind of established where we are on that, part two, we have this new update coming with new cards. We have new game mode. I have to ask, what are your guys' predictions at what you actually think the next scam deck will be? We've identified that Mage was this season's. What is next season's? What do you guys predict comes with the update? What are we worried about?
I'm worried about the new Yogg.
Yeah.
The new Yogg has to be the scale. Like, I don't. It might be a meme.
So like, I think that like this is like how they're doing Yogg this time around is like the right direction for what they're going with RNG. Where, before in the past, Blizzard would make cards completely equally random all throughout, so anything could happen. But if you make RNG where they're physically changing the statistics of what can happen, you can limit the bad outcomes, right? Like you can limit bad.
I suppose. I think they did this. They have it so we have a 19% chance of all the less broken things happening, and then a 5% chance of the most broken thing happening.
Okay, so let me ask you this, just like this. Equip a technically speaking, statistically backed worse player. Does it give them a better chance? Is that at the end of the day what Blizzard is responding to? Like allowing people that can't quite make connections with how to control their RNG. Are we actually saying that that Blizzard is changing everything about the way it's backed, or was there actually something unfair? Because to me, it almost sounds like we're equipping technically worse players to have better chances to beat technically better players.
I'll be honest, I'm not really I don't know. I haven't looked at this card that much, but I'm not really a fan of it. I don't actually think it's that great, and I don't know if it's going to really be that big of an impact. I'm not even looking at the 5% win the game. It's just a lot of options. I think it's like any card that gets released. You think of the absolute best case scenario, but that's not going to be 80% of the scenarios. You know what I mean? Most time, a lot of these aren't going to do much of anything. I mean, that's where I have issues.
Well, it's not 5% win the game. It's 5% somebody wins the game.
Well, that's what I meant. But like, I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, 5% you're going to win.
Like, this is definitely a better design than the Pass Yogg. Like, because the Pass Yogg was just
the Pass Yogg is one of the options.
Yeah, I mean, now granted, the Pass Yogg is one of the options.
And and you think it's guaranteed to be 10 spells out of it because
I think I disagree though.
Do 10 to activate it.
I think the old Yogg was better RNG because you knew exactly what it was going to do. You knew it was going to cast random spells for how many spells it was controlled RNG.
Mm-hmm.
Like
no, because like I mean that's the same as this one, right? Because like in the past when you know it's going to cast that many spells, but you don't know those spells are going to be.
I don't think it is the same because like you're gonna play Yogg and they're gonna have like a Tyrion and a whatever, and you're like, hey, I have to roll the steal, and like you don't roll it, and you're like, well, that didn't do what I needed to do.
So
whereas Yogg, the old Yogg did, you knew you're playing it for 10 mana, you know what's gonna happen.
You don't know what's gonna happen.
Kraken.
Well, like you know you're playing random spells for how many spells you play. That's what I mean.
If you're on the other side, of this Yogg, which one of these happening are you not tilted by?
It just
depends.
depends.
Not tilted by?
Yeah, you're tilted by all of them.
That's a different aspect that Harash does bring up that could make this card a lot worse than some people and on Twitter are saying it could be, because like since the old Yogg was completely random, it could do anything. Now, granted, the new Yogg can also do anything, but there's like a lot of options that don't work in certain scenarios, right? Like you could play him on an empty board and roll take 3 enemy minions, and it doesn't work.
I think you're going a little too far, Kraken, on like what I'm kind of trying to say. Like you're saying like you played old Yogg and you didn't know what happened, but I'm saying you know that you're playing random spells. With this Yogg, you're gonna play it and you don't even know what outcome you're going to get. That's why it makes it, to me, like not great. Because and I hate to say this, and it's sad that I'm saying this in the Hearthstone in 2020, but when you cast X number of random spells, you kind of know what's gonna happen. Like we have seen it so many times now. Like you know that like maybe something's gonna get cleared. You're gonna draw some cards. You're gonna play some secrets. Yeah, like that's almost so consistent.
Yeah, but every good box, there's a bad box. Like you statistically don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, I don't know if that's actually true though, because most spells that cast from the player are beneficial for the player more than they are the other player. Like in a Grand Slam, and if it's Conjurer's Calling on your own, or like a lot of cards that do things for you, summon rush minions, a lot of hunter spells, all the secrets. Those are all only advantageous for the player.
I mean,
you see what I'm saying?
I mean, I guess so. Because to me, like the only problematic modes of this card are the Pyroblast one and the old Yogg form, because the other ones are predetermined effects that do predetermined things.
You have a 1 in 4 chance of one of those two happening. Right?
That was my problem with the old Yogg and bots itself, was that they're not predetermined things. They are completely random.
The more I'm looking at this card, the more I think it's unplayable, because there's no deck that you can put it in and it just be a good card consistently. Like let's say you go in on the mystery box. Like what if you're playing like a control warrior or something, or a control shaman, and you only play 5 spells, or I don't know, you don't even play that many spells. Like, you can't rely on mystery box, and then it's like you can't have a deck that would
you
take
need-
advantage of all of these.
You also need to play 10 spells beforehand to activate.
Yeah,
it in
you have
the
to play
first
10
place.
spells to activate.
Oh yeah. Okay, well then
So-
that's even worse. The card's even worse.
Yeah,
And you're putting
it's-
it in a deck that's specifically trying to do something, but it's not going to do that.
I'm sure there's going to be support printed for it, though. We haven't seen even close on
that's
the
true.
cards.
That's always the.
I mean, I just don't. I think there's so many decks that like casting 10 spells is not even that hard. Like,
Well, not anymore.
So-
You would agree.
I feel like there's gonna be a lot of decks that can just casually play this, like long like game decks that can just
Yeah.
like casually play it.
Control decks will play it probably.
Mm-hmm.
At least
No,
initially. for sure.
control decks are going to play
Yeah.
Cthulhu. Cthulhu is going to be the control
You can play them both.
card.
Yeah, I mean you can play both probably.
Yeah, Cthulhu, it gives you 4 extra spells to activate your Yogg.
My prediction, even this early,
Preface.
its card's not going to be good.
I don't think it's going to be good, but it's gonna.
Yeah,
It's
unplayable.
I'm
hey,
voting this card is going to be good.
It's
I'm
gonna
voting
be-
this
it's
card-
gonna be
I'm voting this
content.
card will be good, but not as broken as people are saying it's going to be.
This
I
is-
think it will see play a lot of play.
no, I don't think
I'm
it's going to be
voting-
broken. It's going to be tilting, and it's going to be a clip machine, right? This
Well,
is for
okay,
content.
I say what happens is that basically they're going to not only call this card a staple in decks, they're going to nerf it. I'm making that prediction.
It's okay. That's your okay. I thought you were saying like that's what's gonna happen.
No, I'm calling it because I want to see actually who gets closest, because it seems like all of us had different opinions. So like when this card doesn't get nerfed, you guys can rub it in my face, but when it does, I can tell you guys like, hey, I told you that this card is going to be a staple and get nerfed.
I think this will be the most played card on day one. That's
Oh,
my
yeah.
prediction.
Oh yeah, probably.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
How are you not going to play this, right? I think it's going to be. This is going to be a content machine, but I don't think it's going to be all that
my
good.
my thing with this card in control decks is that most of the outcomes here are okay for control, and you can just play the card when your opponent has stuff on the board. The guarantee.
That's why I actually like. Actually, that's why I was thinking put it in control. I mean, honestly, all of them are not bad in a control deck.
Guys, duels. New
New
game mode.
Why
Duels.
would you- yeah.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh has come. We have duels. Now, I there's a lot I think to be said about it. From another game mode coming with potentially another one on the way. This one kind of integrates the thing I liked best about the solo adventure. That particular type of building was a lot of fun to me, but I can't envision it. I don't have a lot of wild cards myself, so for me as a newer player, it's a little intimidating to me, and that I don't think I can play it right away without having to spend money or at least some dust that could be gone towards standard like I play. I don't know. Where do you guys think Duels sits? Like in terms of pop, is I guess the question I'm going to ask is, you have standard and wild, you have battlegrounds, you have arena, you even have the weirdos that like solo adventure. But where does it fall in popularity? Do you think it's a worthy?
So I think it's gonna. So I think we're gonna always have standard and BGs like kind of fighting it out for number one top spot, right? But I do think duels might be that like third most popular mode. I think it might be a little more popular than wild because I mean it does require some wild cards, kind of, but not really. But it's a lot less expensive to get into than wild itself, right? And then I think this might actually just kind of kill arena. I think this is kind of like the death sentence for arena. I don't see it survive. Like nobody's gonna play it. You use the same tickets to get into both. I don't know. Why would you spend your tickets on arena when you could spend them on duels?
Well, I'm wondering what kind of prize support is going to be offered in duels versus the prize support that's offered in arena. Like, will it be worth the value that one ticket?
I think it's supposed to be the exact same structure as arena. So whatever number of wins you have, whatever your prizing would have been for X wins in arena is what you're going to get in duels, the competitive mode. But there's also a casual mode for it. You can just kind of play it with no stakes at all, right? Which you can't with arena. There's no casual arena. You always have to spend 150 gold to get in. You don't always have to spend 150
that
gold.
makes it even more confusing to me. I really don't know. I really just kind of think this is like almost designed to just replace arena. Then I don't really know why they would both exist then in the same world. And I don't even think I would want them to, because then you're just going to create more niche communities and everything like that. So
Do you think that's why they have axes down there? Because they're giving Arena the axe?
maybe. See, but that's, I mean, maybe, would they really do that though? Like, for real, would they actually like just be like, yeah, Arena, it doesn't exist?
I don't know.
Well, so I
don't
can think of
know.
a few Twitch specific Arena players. My buddy Judge, Team America, like those guys are their bread and butter is like
Yeah.
just the Arena community.
Twisted
Yeah.
Gaming.
Yeah, like so.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's several of them that are out there, but I can't say I don't know. I almost have a hard time imagining it goes away. But I think we were talking before, and somebody made the comment, that with the more and more game modes, it's kind of taking away. Like I thought about it after it was said before. Do you see that would hurt our game, like having another game mode? In the Twitch space, at any rate, that's the question.
I think so. I think absolutely. I mean, it's very clear. We can even just use proof from BGs. I mean, when BGs came out, it 100% not only split standard and BG's viewers then, but also Arena and BG's. Like, they were none competing. Like, it created a trifecta of competition just in the Twitch community, let alone just people playing. So, like, I think 100%. To me, I see this as like more problematic than good. I just can't really see like a world where this is like really good for the game.
I do think though that this is an interesting way they can test out new hero powers and maybe design mechanics for future sets and stuff. Because for one, I'm the believer that like Demon Hunter is not going to be the last class at it, and like I think Demon Hunter is like it's just the first, right? They're going to add like Monk or something else eventually. And I think that like instead of like having to test within themselves at Blizzard to figure out what could their next new hero power be for I don't know, it could be a hero, right? It could be like something like Boom or something. It doesn't even have to be a new like class. It can be a new hero card. Like this is a way they could test new hero powers and new cards. Just put them as artifacts or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean,
and they can't do that with Arena. But I think because I do think this kills Arena. So
yeah, I don't know if it has like. If it's gonna be able to like sustain itself, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but there's a lot. Like as I said, it's the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be a lot more to come with the format. It looks like,
I was just gonna say like, I've played a couple duels rounds, and I do really like the first couple rounds. I mean, I'm a little sad that you can only have like 15 cards, no duplicates. But the fact that I was going back in my Naxxramas set, my Karazhan set, like that was really cool. And the first like round or two was pretty fun. But then I got into like the 4, 5, 6, 7 rounds where you're getting more treasure or more like passives, wherever they offer you like cards that like aren't actual Hearthstone cards, treasures, passives, things like that. That's whenever it started to lose me. And then there's like these really crazy OP combos in certain classes, and like I can't see it. It lost me. Like
they already
in the first couple of rounds, then it lost me.
They already had to remove one of the passives too. They removed the Robes of Gaudiness.
I mean, like they'll reduce all cost of spells by 1, and then you have like Demon Hunter's hero power, which gives you a second slice. It's like this is obviously just doesn't make sense. Like that just is not fair. Like that's just it.
All the hero powers are ridiculous.
I think a lot of the fun just even hasn't like been put into the game or delve into yet, because like the more and more I'm looking at people post lists and all that, which it's like the more they're discovering old commons or old epics that people just never use but actually work with the hero powers in this instance, or like the fact that like eventually we're going to have 6 artifacts or a bunch of different artifacts to choose from at the beginning,
and
so
3
there's
hero
gonna be
powers.
a lot of complexity in what you can do, like like taking this hero power with that artifact or this hero power with that artifact and just like mix and matching them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's one thing. It's like right now we only have access to one hero power, one artifact per class. Yeah. Next is like, coming up. We're gonna have 3 hero powers to choose from and 6 artifacts or something like that. So how many combinations is that? That's like
I know that is really cool, but in my mind it's still an issue of just like as long as those treasures or those passives are in the game, like, and you keep getting them round after round, like that core issue is going to be the problem for me personally.
Yeah, because you can totally
that's going to ruin it. If it was just, hey, put these cards in your deck, add cards to your deck along the way, I think this would maybe take me. Like this could maybe overrule standard for me. that sounds amazing. I always want like a rotating set, like competitive format. That sounds amazing. But it's whenever you add like those things, that it really loses me.
But the thing is your opponents also had those treasures added, right?
But it's also like random, like which ones you get. It's not even consistent. Maybe even if it was consistent, you'd have me. But the fact that it's just like you get a chance of 3, like out of a random pool, is even worse to me.
Maybe they make it a thing where there's like 3 you choose from each stage, but they're consistent for everybody, right?
Yeah,
maybe that's
the core concept. I'm just saying, like the core concept to me is what I have an issue with. The whole idea of getting these like passives and treasures along the way is the problem I have.
Yeah, it seems like they're willing to start balancing those really quickly though, because if they're balanced, maybe it's a little more fun.
Like you can't, so you're not gonna be able to balance them. Like I've already seen like most of them, and they don't seem balanceable.
I mean, didn't you see the trailer? It had like exploding rainbow cats and and Arnold in the background or something.
But does anything ever replace standard deck building as the primary viewed Hearthstone? Like, could this be a formidable format as like a mainland competition, or
not if they don't add a tournament mode?
Yeah, true.
Like unless they add like the hardware or like the software to be able to like format it, it gets really complicated, right? It's also like I think Wild's in a stage where it might need like a complete overhaul when it comes to what is and not in Wild, at times.
Yeah, Wild. I love playing Wild and all. I stream it, and it's just like sometimes it just feels so silly.
I feel like there's a reason they continue to add new game modes, because it's not like adding new game modes adds more players.
Seriously, nonstop.
Yeah. I would agree with that, especially this format where they're using old collections. Like, I don't think they're targeting a new audience. I don't know who they're targeting, to be honest.
I feel like they're targeting. They're either aiming to make of course, are aiming to make more money to get people to buy decks that are like newer players, like me, who would buy packs to play Duels, right? There's plenty of people like me that have come in. Or think about the massive cast of people that play Standard that dust all of their wild cards so that they can have the tier 1 decks.
Yeah,
they're picking up money on those just so those people.
Yeah, and they can fight the criticism pretty easily because they did warn us about a year and a half ago to not dust our cards.
That you're playing one-ofs, so you don't need 2 copies of all these cards.
Right.
There's a lot of them you just don't need anyways because they're still trash.
I mean,
Duels. When you played it, was it fun? Because again, I haven't played it.
I've had a lot of fun, and I feel like I'm learning along the way of what makes a good deck and draft as the more runs I do. Like the other I think last night I was just kind of doing them on my own, and I was playing I got Druid as mine, and I'd seen everybody doing these like big Druid builds with like guardian animals and all these big beasts and all that. And I was like, I'm gonna go a different route. I'm gonna go token build, right? Straight token Druid, kind of like what you see in Wild with aggro Druid, and it kicked the shit out of people, right? It would win games by turn 3, 4 sometimes for the first few rounds.
That was one of my decks, was a token Druid.
But then I kept building on that idea as I went along, right? I kept adding more token stuff, more minion buff stuff. And then by the time I got to 6 wins, the power spikes of the other decks just completely ruined the token build. Like I had no chance.
The other issue I was gonna bring up earlier too was like the problem is you can like build your deck and have this idea, but then like because the health like gets higher and you get more cards in your deck and like you get these more treasures and like your deck gets more advanced and higher power level, like the strategy that you started with isn't going to, it might be really good on the first couple of rounds, but then it's going to be terrible later.
Yeah.
It's not going to be playable.
Yeah. So you have to like plan it out to like play. You have to plan it out where it's a deck that's going to work for all 12 rounds, not just the first few, right? You might have a lower chance of winning round 1, 2, so on. But I've seen a lot of posts where it's like went 0-2 to 12-2, went 2-2 to 12-2, something like that, right? Because they built their deck to win 12 rounds.
I almost think that's how you have to do it if you're going to get 12 wins, because you can't have a deck that's super strong in the first round or two that's going to get 12 wins. I don't see it.
I think the only class that might be capable of that is Demon Hunter. because they can
Which class?
Demon Hunter, because they
Oh,
can just
yeah,
like
I would
build
agree.
build
100%
a
agree,
burn
yeah.
that's going to win in the first few rounds anyways, while still having the big stuff. Plus, their artifact is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I know it's disgusting.
You just throw 3 big demons in your deck, hope you don't draw them, play that, and then
it's
it's just
disgusting.
game, right?
Yeah.
It really is crazy.
Yeah, and I don't want to talk bad about Duels, like, 'cause I do love a lot of things about it. But I think honestly, what probably happened is like when they came out with the, what do they call them, dungeon runs. I think that
Yeah.
a lot of people wanted it to be PvP, and so they started a team to make a competitive version of a PvP version of Dungeon Run, and this is what's kind of happened. And maybe BGs might not have even been an idea at Blizzard at the time, whenever this was already started. So I think it just probably started as a project, and now it's become what it is now. But now I just think the timing is really questionable, and it just makes me a little nervous. Like, I like a lot of things about it, but it's just going to make more saturation. It's going to pull people apart and make more niche communities, I think, in the long run.
Yeah, that's definitely a possible setback of it. But I don't know. It's been a lot of fun to play. It's nice to play something that's not standard ladder for once, especially like BG's is fine, but I sometimes you just lose a game of BG's and you just felt like that was just stupid,
Yeah.
And
every time I think about a new game mode or anything, because I come from playing World of Warcraft. I mean, I played that game for 10, 11 straight years. So anytime something happens in a video game, I always think of the longevity of it. Yeah, sure, the initial hype is fun. Everyone plays it, and of course I get some buzz. But to me, it's like, okay, I'm planning on playing this game for like a long period of time. I'm trying to think of the longevity of things, and in the longevity of Hearthstone, this doesn't seem like at the moment like a great thing.
I'm not going to play it, I don't think, before it fully releases. Maybe just to get my 2 packs or something, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, like I said, it's really fun. And you really don't need the wild cards. They help, but you don't need them.
No, in fact, I think you really don't need them.
Yeah, because you have Skullman's cards, which are all OP compared to Nox and what's the other one? Is it Karazhan? Right now, is it Karazhan or Gadgetzan?
It was fun playing Zombie Chow. I played Zombie Chow and Haunted Creeper. I mean, it was definitely a nice nostalgic feeling for sure. Like, I definitely like that part.
Yeah.
But then the Treasure Fiesta happened.
Yeah, I mean, it might get more interesting when they have 3 sets that aren't really in standard.
Well, they're planning on doing more sets in general. I think it's gonna be more than 3.
They are adding I think it's 3 sets right now, and I think they said on release it'll be 5 or something.
Yeah.
But you're still only limited to 15 cards, no duplicates. That is a serious restriction.
Yeah.
That is.
It's really hard.
I didn't think it was that big until I actually made a deck, and I was like, oh wow, this is
I'm out of spots.
Really difficult.
I'm out of spots.
But the one of every card is also a serious limiter on playing 2 of the broken cards and 1 of the non-broken cards, right? Or just playing
I'm just saying until you go in and your first time you go in and make a deck, you realize how little 15 no duplicates is. It's nothing. It feels like nothing.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. I'm kind of excited to give it a shot, but I
I
do feel as a standard player that I don't know if I like the idea of oversaturating an already pretty niche game.
Yeah, I think overall I would agree.
Well,
I hope it does well. The more we've talked about it, it's actually almost hyped me up a little more, even though I keep again talking kind of bad about it. But I do want to see it succeed, because a rotating set sound is exactly what I would want for the game.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, it looks like we have all officially decided that the internet has spoken here. Mage, you were a scam. Second of all, Duels, we will see. It looks like this could all be a pretty exciting way to rotate a game. Conversely, it could have some negatives. We don't know. We're going to goes. And
Yogg.
New Yogg.
Yeah, yes, new Yogg. Stay tuned. Guys, if you like what you saw, be sure to like the video, share the video, tweet the video, comment on whether or not you agreed with any of our opinions or disagreed with any of our opinions. I love when people want to argue stuff like this. And I'm sure Harash has got his fingertips ready to tell you why you're wrong. Guys, on behalf of Faction and the competitive team, have a good day, good evening, whatever you want to call it. We'll see you later.